enjoy what you do while you can do it. Every day is a gift, and you never know. You got to be healthy and not only have some money, but be healthy enough mentally and physically to be able to go out and do these things, especially as you get older and older.
Hello, Kevin Wenning. This is Ride Plus Photography Talks. Today I've got Galen Stilgebauer. I think I said that right. And I'll give you a quick introduction. Stilgebauer. So Galen is 45 years old, been cycling since he was 12, and rode a lot when he was younger, rode consistently until about 28, and then got into doing some electrical work. Worked on that for about 10 years. Cycling took a back seat in his life, and then one day looked in the mirror, said, I really need to get back on the bike. And he did that, never looked back, and that's kind of where he's at today. We've been chatting just a little bit before we got kicked off here. So give us a little bit more of the story. You told me that you started kind of racing again when you were 38, and now you're 45. What happened in between those years there?
Yeah, a couple of years ago when I got pretty serious about racing. I mean, and I'm 45 years old. I've been riding for over 30 years now, but when I was like 38, I got into it. Somebody suggested, oh, you're pretty strong and fast. You should get out and race. And I'm like, I don't know. It seems like that's going to kind of ruin it for me. I just like to go out and enjoy the surroundings and enjoy the beauty and all that good stuff. And I was like, I don't know, racing might just kind of ruin it for me. But then I did race and I was hooked right away. So, just went off the deep end and lost like 25, 30 pounds, got down to at 6'2", 174 pounds, I think is the lightest I was. And it was like winning races, and 38 years old, I was competing against guys that were, in their early 20s and all that. And it felt pretty easy. I feel like I kind of peaked out at a Cat 3. It was the fun of being competitive, being able to be competitive as a Cat 4. And it's always more fun when you can win. I think I won one race as a Cat 3, a race on like a pretty big team club, whatever that means, in Denver.
Okay.
And I found like I was better suited as a worker than a winner. Honestly, racing, I saw way too many people getting hurt in the last lap racing for socks. And I was like, I can afford the $15 socks. I don't want to go into the hospital and rip my kit and everything else. So I'll just like sit up and watch everybody else fight for the socks, as it were. So yeah, I think it was 2014 maybe. I got competitive enough, and maybe I was a Cat 3 at that time, that I went to the Masters National Championships in Ogden, Utah, and raced. And I think I got in like 3 breakaways there, and it was great. I ended up having a mechanical and wasn't able to finish the crit, which is probably what I was best suited for there. But yeah, I mean, I went all in. I wanted to race everything. I think the most I ever raced in one year was like 55 or 56 races, cross, mountain, road, time trials. If it had 2 wheels and I had to pay money to do it, I was doing it. It's funny because like everything I've ever done in my life, I do to the nth degree. It's like, oh, let's ride. I'm going to buy a motorcycle. And it's like, oh, this is fun. And then I go from like an enduro, or what do they call it, a dual sport, to like a full-on desert racer and riding. When I lived up in Silverthorne, me and my buddies and I, after work, we'd ride till the sun went down, and I had like blood blister calluses on my hands, and it was just nuts. And my boss would be like, what, do you come to work to recover? And I was like, yeah, pretty much. And so I just had that kind of mentality. And then like the cycling, the same kind of thing. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to get a heart rate. I'm going to learn how to like train, and why not be a coach and like try to help other people and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just taking it to the nth degree and having fun with it too.
So to this day, do you still race sometimes, or did you come to a point where you said that level of all out is just not for me anymore?
I'm there right now. Well, I don't know. I struggle with it a little bit. Like I kind of got away from racing with the club. It just like it seems ridiculous to me, and that's why I kind of stopped doing it. But like it got kind of like political, and like egos and all this other stuff. At least that's how I felt. So I ended up like, I became, through social media and photography and all that, I became an ambassador for a bunch of different brands before, 3 and 4 years ago, before like everybody was striving to be an ambassador and all this stuff. So like
okay.
one of the brands was Castelli, and that's maybe part of the reason I moved to, and that's like with the photography, it's kind of a dream. 2012, I bought a Mercedes Sprinter van because I'm also an electrician, and I was like, oh, bought it to shoot, you know, adventure vehicle again, hashtag van life.
Yep.
So I had the van, I had the coaching license, the photography skills, and I was like, this would be great. If people come out to Colorado and I take them around and I show them like what a local actually does, and not so much like foo-foo, like let me take you to the 5-star hotel and all that, but I wanted to give people like an organic Colorado cycling travel experience, like camp out in the woods, that whole thing.
Awesome. Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, the guy who was doing the branding and all that was like, well, you should create a kit and I'll help promote your brand through the Castelli Instagram page. So that was pretty interesting. Like, so I created a kit and then I sold some kits through Instagram and, you know, got a following that way. And then like my local bike shop that used to, the team, as it were, was like, when I kind of went away from them, they're like, well, what do you think about just like putting our name across your chest and wearing your own kit and then just going out and representing us, but doing it on your own way? And I'm like, that sounds awesome. Like, I'll probably never win another race, but it sounds awesome. So let's do it. So that is my style of racing now, is just like, you know, I did try to design a new kit every year, every couple of years. Some of the people that I was ambassadors for kit, and I'll show up and give it my best shot.
I'm going to switch over to your page here now. Share your page. So I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but this is the first photo that caught my attention. And you've got several others, like your fruit kit. Are these ones that you designed, or these come from somewhere else?
No, that's, well, I was talking to my buddy the other day about, I was like, I should learn how to do Art Illustrator, do everything myself. And, but he's like, well, you got to have like a background, and all right, forget that. I'll just pay somebody a couple $100 and like, you know, give them and then kind of work through it kind of thing. But yeah, the fruit suit, that was my idea. And I had some help from a designer actually out of Belgium. We just collaborated. Actually, while I was on in France this past summer, watching the tour at the base of Mont Ventoux in Bédoin, we went back and forth and kind of came up with the concept for that design. I was like, I've never seen anything like it. I'm like, I love it.
Yeah, I agree. Most cycling kits are basic blocky colors, and well, you got to leave big spots for, you know, like the sponsor across the chest or on the arms, rather than, hey, let's just make something that's fun that other people want to see me riding with.
Red, white, and black. Yep, that's most cycling kits. And you know, I wanted it to be like rolling art, where honestly, and this is no BS or anything, the first time I took my first 3 kits out, you know, I'm always a little nervous because, again, like riding my whole life, and you know, you get made fun of, I've been spit on, I've had things thrown at me, I've been run off the road, all these things. And you go out in some crazy kit and you're like, oh God, you're like, what's the first comment gonna be, you know? And the first comment for the first 3 times I took out my first 3 kits was, wow, cool kit, man. And I was just like, I did it. Like, that is like the best feeling ever. And hopefully other people get that as well. It was so cool. And the fruit suit was kind of like, honestly, it was kind of like a screw everybody. I'm just going to do something like totally crazy and see who buys it, and see who's really into it and who isn't. And I was a little nervous about wearing it, but you know, like my friend Jeremy, who's in the photos there, I'm like, man, that looks really good. Looks really good in the light, and it just looks super cool. So I'm proud to have had a part in designing it, and proud to wear it.
Where did the photography and the art start? Was it part of the kits and kind of going out and marketing yourself to these ambassadorships, or was the photography a separate thing and then you put the two together?
Yeah, so yeah, the photography started because from riding moto, I had GoPros, or a GoPro, and I would, like, you know, make videos. And And then when I started riding, there's a friend of mine back in Denver, Stephen Fitzgerald, who started Rodeo Labs. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're kind of like I don't know what category to put them in, but let's just say gravel adventure riding. And he was a little bit of a motivator, I suppose. Like I saw him and he was out there taking cool photos, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's got a GoPro and a tripod, and he's like hanging it in a tree and riding back and forth or doing whatever he's doing. And I was like, I get how he does that. I'm like, I'll do that. That seems like fun. And then the photography, yeah, I went from the GoPro to the RX 100. And then once I started seeing the images that came out of the RX 100, I was like, forget the GoPro. I'm like, that's too easy. I just turn it on and, spray and pray, basically. So it's like, it's such a fisheye that you're going to get something in that field of vision. And I was realizing that the RX 100 actually takes a little bit more vision and requires you to actually see things instead of just like turn the camera on. And then from there, I mean, I was doing these Giro stages or the tour stages with a backpack on that weighed like 18 pounds with 4 legs and a camera body, and my back was absolutely killing me after these stages. And then, went on to have a local Denver guy make me a frame pack. Everybody kept saying, free your back from the pack. Like, you got to get a frame bag. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend the money. I mean, that's always my thing. Like, I don't know if I want to spend the money. But once I did, I was like, okay, well, now the bike weighs like 40 pounds, but I just have to get that bike up the mountain. It's not on my back anymore.
How long did you go about that with a pro body and lenses until you switched to the RX 100, or do you take them both out still, just based on where you're going to photograph?
Yeah, so like one of the setups I use, if I ride with the pro body and lenses, that goes in a frame bag, and then the RX 100 just goes in my back pocket. But I don't shoot anything like any races or anything with the RX 100. I mean, the quality is just it's not the quality so much. It's just like what you can do with the different lenses. Again, like I try to go out with like a 70 to 200, a 24 to 70, and then maybe if I'm feeling motivated, I'll throw like a 12 to 24 in there just to like capture the whole scene. At first, I had a little bit of photography snobbery going on, where it's like, well, I only shoot in manual mode, and I only do this, and it's like, iPhones are crap, and they kind of are. But I mean, compared to like a high-end camera, people will say, oh, that's beautiful photo. Did you take that with an iPhone? I was like, no, like an $8,000 iPhone. Yeah. But no, it's not. I did not take that with my iPhone. And then back to the gear thing real quick. So I started with the RX 100 here, and now I have a A7R2, no, I'm sorry, A7 II Sony. And the only reason I went with Sony is because I had I already had the Sony. I understood the menu, the function buttons, and how it kind of was all set up.
Yeah.
I didn't really know the difference between a mirrorless and a DSLR. I just was like, this takes pretty good photos. I'll use this. And then I bought, I actually sold my Mercedes Sprinter van before we moved over here to kind of fund the trip and everything else. And then I told my wife, I was like, look, if I sell that van, I'm buying an A9. So the A9 is like the 20 frame per second mirrorless, like sports camera. It's pretty incredible. And again, I don't have any experience with anything else, but shooting mirrorless versus DSLR, as far as I can tell, is it's kind of like cheating. It's not, obviously you have to still shoot in manual mode and do all the things and know the settings and all of that. But like with your electronic viewfinder, you can look through there and mess with your settings and see what you're getting before you press the shutter button. There's no like looking back at the back of the chimping at the back of the camera. And you're like, did I get the shot? And you just keep shooting because you're like, I already know what I got before I hit the shutter button. So I'm good.
Interesting.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
You're clearly shooting, some creative as well, like on your personal Instagram. And I mean, you got some long exposure stuff there. Clearly you're looking for light and moments. You're not all about just the mechanics of your camera.
For sure. Yeah. It's a means to an end, or an ends to a mean. What is it? Means to an end. Yeah. But that's a cool thing. It's like, it's a cool tool. It's like if with electrical. I've got bags and bags of tools, and each one does a different thing. This pair of cutters will cut this wire better than this pair of cutters, and so on and so forth. So like right now I'm looking at ball heads and tripods and L brackets, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm into it for another like $1,500 here if I'm really going to get serious about landscape photography. But again, it's like being able to go out and create different stuff. And it's been my experience too. Like when I went all in on electrical, when I went all in on racing bicycles and all that, I have a tendency to burn out. But with photography, I can shoot portraits, landscape, sports, street photography, take pictures of my dog, whatever it is. So I'm always doing something different. If you burn out in one area, you can still create in a different. And again, the long exposures, I have done like zero astrophotography. I was even asking my buddy today, I was like, I don't really ever shoot with a flash. I have two of them, but I don't really know what I'm doing with it. I'm, out doing natural light stuff all the time. So again, more room to grow.
I guess we kind of touched on why you started photography in the first place, but why did you start adding photography to your rides and really thinking about, like, do I need to capture a moment here rather than just, why not leave the camera in your pocket and just enjoy the ride? Why did you start taking photos?
Well, coming over here to Italy, I'm only here for a year. So I want to cherish this. I want to be able to look back. I may never come back here. I doubt that's going to be my reality, but it might not happen. So I want to look back and be like, wow, that was super cool.
Yeah.
And also being able to share things, like I said about my friend who, the sunshine breaking through the cloud picture, that may not have provided a moment of relief that she needed. And I'm not doing it necessarily for that. It's just a side benefit, and that's pretty meaningful to me, honestly. But the photography side, I love creating, and it's just like, there's so much cool stuff out there in the world, and just create beautiful images. Let's just keep it light, and let's try to inspire each other. I've been paid to create photos for people, and that's rewarding. But like going back to my electrical, you got to put in 8,000 hours minimum before which is 4 years and 40 hours a week. You got to put in 8,000 hours before you can even take your test to be a journeyman. And that's no guarantee that you're going to pass that.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're going to pass that test. In our culture in the Front Range, there's 2 or 3 guys that are pretty established as like race photographers, right? Some guys set up a tripod and an off-camera flash, and they post up on a corner and they just blast away, and they put their stuff up on a smug mug or whatever and try to sell their photos. And then there's a couple other guys that get a little bit more artistic and all that kind of good stuff. People would ask me like, they'd see me out there with a camera and they'd say, hey, where can I see your photos? I'm like, well, you can come over and have a beer with me and look at them on my laptop. But aside from that, like, you might see one photo on Instagram. But that was all part of the process of like spending those 8,000 hours. I mean, if you look at my landscape stuff, I think I could put that up against anybody's stuff. Some of my cycling photography, whether it be at a race or whatever. I mean, if you go back to that Galen 1973, there's the photo of the 3 cell phones.
Yeah.
Ashley Gruber, do you know the Grubers? I mean, do you know who they are?
No.
They're like, they shoot for Castelli, for Strava, for Giro, for EF Education First. They're just like the penultimate cycling photographer. And at one point, and they're husband and wife, and they do take fantastic images. But she posted hers first. At that time, she had like 2,600 and change likes. But then all 3 of those photos are from the same rock. And I was just like, when your feed starts to look the same. And then there's another photo a few back from when I went to Strada Bianchi, and all the photographers are standing there on that one berm, and I was like, yeah, all these guys are standing there, and they all stood there. And I actually ended up on Cycling Tips. If you go to their Instagram feed, it's probably 20, 30 photos ago now, you'll see me in the ditch taking a photo as the women are coming through. And I'm like, here's all these other guys. I ended up in one of their shots, and I guess, they ended up in mine, but I purposefully took the photo of all those guys standing with their Canon 1DX and their 70-200 2.8. I just thought it was hilarious. It's like, look at all these guys.
I totally agree with
But
you. Your photography is top notch. I mean, no reason a magazine wouldn't hire
thank
you
you.
if that's the way you want it to go. But there's a price to your soul that comes along with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd sell it.
I
I'd
ran
sell my
into
soul. How much is it worth?
I ran into a photographer once in an airport who was he was checking his bags through, and he just opened his gear to show the TSA or whatever. And I saw he had all this tons of nice gear in there. So I just struck up a conversation with him after we got through security, and he saw I had my camera gear with me as well. And he asked what I shoot. I told him, I'm not a commercial photographer. I don't shoot for any publications or anything. And he goes, man, that would be so nice. And what do you mean? You just got paid to go on an assignment with all this fancy gear. He's like, yeah, but I have to. I don't shoot anything that I want to anymore. I have to go do this because it's my assignment, and I have to pay my bills. What's the big difference for you between cycling and photography as far as why you do them? Or do they do the same thing for you, or do they kind of do separate things? Do they nurture you in different ways?
It's interesting. Ultimately, what they have in common is feeding the beast. You know, it's cycling is keeping me fit, or just go out for an easier spin and enjoy the view. And with photography, again, I got in the habit of like, oh, I have to go out and like show people that I like prove to people that I rode today, and I'll do that with a photo or 5 photos or whatever. And like, you'll notice that I don't do a lot of like 10 shots, 5 shots. It's one shot. It's selfish though. It's like I love creating, and like you could ask me about any one of those photos and I could talk about it for 10 minutes. I could tell you what I did, where I was, what I felt like, all those things, you know. And honestly, without that photo, that story's not going to happen.
The thing that attracted me to your feed, of course, is you're not just taking selfies on the bike or photographing just bike rides. You've got a lot of other things.
Yeah, thank you. Like
here's one where I can see, you saw this shot, the curve or the light or something, and you actually staged the shot.
Yeah. That's on my Trail Donkey, the bike made by Rodeo Labs. It's like a gravel bike. I guess you can put like 40 millimeter tires on there. That's a bike that I brought out here originally with me, 2 sets of wheels, so I could ride on the road. It's a 1x. It's a 42 in the front with I think it's a 9 or a 10 up to 42 in the back. It's not that fun to ride on the road. It doesn't do anything great, but it does everything I need it to do. And this is a climb I'd never been on before, and just the light was great, and it was a new section of road, and I was just like, okay, that was an RX 100 with a little Joby magnetic tripod I stuck on the guardrail there. And
do you ever go anywhere specifically to make a photo? Now, I'm not talking about like going and photographing a race. I mean, like, let me flip back over to here. Like specifically, I was thinking about this one. This can't have just been a random spot that you said, hey, there's a good photo here. Like, this looks like a planned shot to me. Did you know this spot was here, or you saw this on a ride and you executed this while you were on a ride?
I had ridden this road about a month before, and the descent is absolutely incredible. I mean, like every road here, there's literally like 20 switchbacks to get up or down. But outside of like Google Maps, I'd never seen what the road looked like. And I was like, well, I could bring my drone. So I put on a backpack, put my drone in there, had my point and shoot with me as well. And we rode for 2.5 hours to get to this point. And I hadn't taken the drone out yet. But we got to this point, and I was like, hey, I'm going to throw the drone up in the air. Like, let's just see what happens. And I got it up about 400 feet or so in the air. And I saw that the lower section of road. And I was like, oh man, this is super cool. So I took like 7 shots, and this was just the one that, I don't know, my buddy liked it the most. I probably liked something different, but he liked it the most. So I was like, all right, I'll post this photo. So 3 hours of riding for one photo with 10 pounds on my back or whatever the backpack weighed. My back hurt for 2 days after that.
It looks like a very well planned shot. Like you knew where the sun was going to be, maybe where the shadow was going to be, or at least, you know, the right time of day to be there. But whatever the case, it came together beautifully.
Honestly, Kevin, that's 99% of my photos are just being at the right place and being like, oh, that's cool. I got to capture this. Like, there's not a lot of planning.
This goes back to your, you know, thousands of hours of practice. You didn't just ride this road and get lucky. Like, you had all of that back knowledge of just your practice of knowing what would make a good shot. And because when you saw this, or your friend saw this, you said you took several other shots, but you
took like
knew how to get the right photo here. You didn't just get lucky.
Well, to be honest with you, I wanted to take one somewhere else, a little higher up. There's this huge wall. He does some rock climbing as well, and I thought that might be exciting for him to, like, you know, throw it out, maybe not so high, but like out on a horizontal plane and get the shot against the big wall, just to show the scale of it. But he kept riding, and I wasn't going to be like, I was kind of thinking like back here. And so I just kept riding. And then when we started descending, I was like, hold on. I got to get one shot with this stupid drone before we go back to the car. Otherwise, I carried this thing all day for nothing.
Right.
So that's how the shot was curated.
Here's another great one that really caught my attention. Like, that's not a traditional photo from a bike. You rode down that road and you saw something special there that most people wouldn't see.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, you know, truth be told, so I've ridden that road, not that particular road. That's my friend Larson, who came down from Austria. He's not on social media. He actually despises it, which I admire. But I've ridden that road a few times and I've seen that tree. It's crazy. You know, I love the shade and everything that a tree in full bloom can provide, but it's kind of like seeing a person when they're stripped down, you know, and they're vulnerable. You see a tree without branches and leaves and you're like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And what's that center mass is just a bunch of like ivy and that's just like clumped together there. And we're getting ready to head up to Belgium and go check out Tour de Flanders, Ronde van Vlaanderen, and then onto Paris-Roubaix. And I was like, that just kind of looks like some of those Belgian roads that with the grass embankments on either side. And I was like, go right up that road. And that was actually on the return when he was coming back down. It just had the hand on the hip. And I was like, I really like it.
That's true. It's a unique silhouette of him. And I wasn't even thinking about the tree that way.
Oh,
but just having, like you said, you know, the GoPro is different in that you can just turn it on, take a quick shot. But when you're using a camera, maybe that you have to think a little bit about your settings. You look at the scene in a different way, like how the light's coming in, how you're going to compose your shot. Just makes you, I don't know, approach it a little more purposefully, maybe.
You can hear it just in talking to me. My mind goes a million miles a second, and I'm all over the place. So like having a camera and like kind of looking through a viewfinder slows it down a little bit and makes me focus. It's interesting because like my whole life I've done like manual labor jobs. Never went to college. Again, a lot of things I've been self-taught. I didn't even get into electrical till I was 27. And, you know, most guys are out of high school or something like that, 18, 19 years old. I worked in outdoor retail, like for the North Face and bike shops and all these different things. And I think at 27, I was like, all right, I got to get something going here. So like I can take concrete, a pile of 2x4s, wire and everything else, build a wall, start from scratch, start to finish, and, you know, like wire something up for you. And I'm good at like taking that raw material and building something at the end. I love to create a goofy set of spandex or, you know, maybe perhaps a beautiful photo. The coolest thing for me is what other people take from a photo that, and oh, wow, look at this. And I was like, I wasn't even looking at that. That's a side benefit. And then when somebody else points that out to me, it makes me look at things in a different light.
the main question I had from my selfish reasons is cycling through Tuscany, Cortona down to, where are we going? Cortona to Pienza, back up to, I think we end in Siena, kind of that region.
What time of year?
We're going in May, shooting for, spring flowers, nice green fields, nice cool days.
Bella. So when I've been in Tuscany, I've been in like the Chianti region, Panzano, Greve. It's a little bit more mountainous, but like where they do the Strada Bianchi is a little bit south of Siena. It's more like those rolling green hills and that kind of stuff. Oh, mamma mia. I was like blown away. I was like, I cannot believe I've never ridden here before. The white roads, obviously like stringing through the countryside like a ribbon, and then just the way the light was hitting, I was like, I hope there's like broken clouds, because I want like shafts of light and like light hitting the hills in different spots. Just so cool. And again, the hills aren't very big. I mean, some of them are steep, 15, 16, 18%, but they're all short, which is great for a fat guy like myself. So I'm like, oh, I only have to try for like 5 minutes, but it'll sneak up on you because it's all day of up, down, up, down, up, down. And then before you know it, you've climbed like 4,000 feet in 50 miles or something,
So is your wife ride too? You guys are riding together?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. She's honestly for mileage or a kilometer, as we've switched over to the metric system since being here. Based off distance, she's not that far behind me, like a couple hundred miles for the year, which is crazy. I seem to climb more, but she gets out just as much as I do. 80-90% of our riding is based out of our apartment, which is in Pove del Grappa, which is at the base of Monte Grappa, which is it's like a 4,500-foot climb, something like that. Like literally, I don't even get a warm up in because it's 7 minutes, and then I'm like at 6%, and then it's like an average of 8 to 9 to 10% for like 2 hours. But actually, it's been good since like February. I had a buddy coming from Colorado, and then another friend that I used to ride with in Colorado who's living in Austria now. He came down. He's like on a ski mission. He moved over. He kind of quit his job and was like, I need to just kind of like chill out. I'm getting too stressed out at my job. And I don't want to say that I inspired him, but I think he may have said that I inspired him, but I'll let him say that. Just like, enjoy what you do while you can do it, kind of thing. Because, every day is a gift, and you never know. You got to be healthy and not only have some money, but be healthy enough mentally and physically to be able to go out and do these things, especially as you get older and older. It's not always so easy. So anyway, he came down and we rode for a couple of weeks, went to Strada Bianchi in Tuscany. He'd never been to Tuscany. I've been a few times, and I'd never been to Strada Bianchi, which was incredible. It was such a cool race to go spectate. But yeah, we rode a ton, and now I've got another buddy who's been here, and he's like, oh, this is like my training camp to get in shape. And I was like, this is like my third training camp in a row, but okay, let's just keep riding.
Now, when you go out riding on your trip now, you're not really trying to do training rides. You're not measuring your metrics. You're just out for, let's see where the day takes me.
Right. Find new roads, find new places. Even like today, my Strava title was, I can't believe I haven't ridden here before. It's like anywhere where you live, you kind of get stuck in your rut. I mean, rut. If you saw where I live and the things I get to see on the daily, it's unbelievable. But, you kind of like, well, I got 2 hours, or I only want to ride for 2 hours. I'll go do this route that I know. And, when you first get somewhere, you're like, I got to explore everything. I want to see everything. And then after a while, you're like, well, I want to stay local. I think. But even today, I mean, to ride to where we started from would take me an hour and a half. We drove there in 40 minutes and then went from there. It was all new roads, had never ridden any of it.
You haven't moved around very much while you're there. You've been pretty much you have an apartment and you've been riding around that one apartment, or did you move around a few spots within the last year?
No, I've been to Rome twice, which is about a 6-hour drive from where I am. I rode to Lake Garda, which is 110 miles away by bike and like 15,500 feet of climbing. I did that solo. That was mentally taxing. Took me like 9 hours.
Mm.
I was like, 100 miles? That'd take like 5 hours, 6 hours. No, it takes 9. Everything here in Italy, including the internet, moves slower. But no, I've been to Tuscany like 3 or 4 times. I went to the World Championships in Innsbruck. Took some photos there. That's like a 3-hour drive away. The Giro, that went all over. Drove to France. Again, I'm driving through Switzerland and then up to Brussels in a couple weeks or next week. Everywhere in between.
All right. Well, the main spots to find you, if anybody wants to look up Galen Stilgebauer, because I pronounced it wrong at the start, Galen Stilgebauer.
Oh, amazing! Like a native.
We've got Galen 1973, and you've also got a photo Instagram page that's more of your personal photos, Galen photo, and then your Squarespace, GalenStilgebauer.squarespace.com. So I'll post those, of course, in the notes so people have a quick link to you.
I've got 65 days left in Italy and Europe. I'm going to the Ronde van Vlaanderen. I'm going to the Paris-Roubaix, the Giro, going back to Tuscany in a couple weeks. So I'm just going to be, as my hashtag says, ride bikes, take photos. You know, that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 60 plus days, and then I'll be back in Colorado. So, hopefully, I'll put some stuff up on my website. Maybe people are interested in getting a print, or they can contact me for that. But yeah, I think I'll kind of concentrate on the business side of things when I get back in Colorado. Right now, I just want to enjoy my time while I'm here.
Right.
I've got a gallery down in Denver for like the Santa Fe, what do they call it? First Friday on Santa Fe, like an art walk. I'll see if I can get back in there and print some stuff up and see if I can, display it down there. But yeah, for now, it's just riding bikes. And again, I mean, I'm always willing to work. I love working and I love creating. So if people want to contact me, let's create some magic.